5 strangers die in a Baltimore prison. Their names never appear on a single character's lips after the fact. Their families never visit the show. The man who ordered their deaths used those bodies. 5 addicts, poisoned, dumped in cells, treated like inventory, to shave a few years off his sentence. And almost every fan of The Wire still walks away thinking he was the good one, the charming one, the one with the code. Today, we're pulling that lie apart. Avon Barksdale and Marlo Stanfield, 2 kingpins, 2 seasons of HBO's most acclaimed drama, and one of the most lopsided moral comparisons in modern television. Talk to anyone who's watched The Wire, and the consensus arrives quickly. Avon had a code. Marlo was a sociopath. Avon respected the game. Marlo had no rules.
This nigga go through all that for 10,000? Man, Slim, go get him 15,000 cash.
Avon helped Cuddy leave the life with $15,000 and a handshake. Marlo would have put Cuddy in a vacant the second he asked. The fandom has more or less closed the case. But what if that comparison is the trick? What if David Simon spent 2 seasons letting us underestimate Avon Barksdale, watched us project warmth onto a man who poisons addicts in a state prison, and then quietly held up the receipt? Let's add up that receipt. Start with the moment most casual rewatchers have already mentally filed away, the hot shots.
Alright, Tillman was LaDante's cousin or some such.
A guard named Tillman is harassing Weebay in retaliation for a murder Weebay committed on the outside.
Officer Tillman, I was wondering if I could parlay with you for a moment.
I said no, motherfucker.
Avon tries to negotiate. Tillman brushes him off.
Bad package, Joe. Hot shots.
So Avon arranges to have Tillman's prison drug supply spiked with poison, and then turns around and uses the resulting deaths as leverage with the warden to fast-track his own parole hearing.
5 dead.
Bodies pile up in cells, 5 at minimum. Junkies, sure. Inmates with sentences shorter than his. People with mothers. People with kids on the outside expecting calls.
We can take that name on down to the assistant ward, and we can get some of our lives back.
Avon has them executed by chemistry to manufacture a public health crisis the prison administrators will pay to make go away. Marlo never did that. Read that sentence again. The man we agree is the show's most chilling killer never carried out a multi-victim civilian massacre to engineer his own legal advantage? Avon did. And the reasoning, passed through D'Angelo and Brianna and the wider organization, is that addicts took the weak man's route. They don't count. He's already done the moral work of disappearing them as people before he ever poisons the package. Now ask yourself how this would land if the show framed it differently. Picture an episode where Marlo is in jail and orchestrates the same scheme. 5 dead addicts, used as raw material to lower his sentence. We would call it the most depraved thing he ever did on screen. We would put it in every video essay about why he's a monster. Because Avon does it, with that smile, with that cousin at the cookout charisma, we file it under business. We let it slide. The math should jolt you. Marlo's body count gets hung on him body by body. Avon kills 5 strangers in a single move, and the fandom shrugs. Now the code. The famous Avon Barksdale code. The thing every fan brings up when defending him. He had rules. He kept the violence in the game. He didn't touch civilians. So let's audit it. William Gant.
Guy works maintenance down at Poe Home.
A working man. A maintenance guy at the Poe Homes housing complex. A witness in a courtroom case.
Single headshot close range.
Avon has him shot dead on the street to send a message. That's a civilian. That's the show's first major murder. Season 1, Episode 1. His body shows up at the end of the pilot, before D'Angelo has even started his first day in the pit.
State calls Nikisha Lyles.
I'm a security guard.
Nikisha Lyles, the security guard from the lobby of 221 Franklin Terrace, the high-rise tower where D'Angelo shot Pooh Blanchard. She originally identified D'Angelo from a photo array.
Nope, he ain't here.
The Barksdale crew leaned on her until she recanted her ID on the stand and walked D'Angelo out of the courtroom a free man.
Don't want his testimony sprung D'Angelo.
Lakeisha Lyles.
Then they killed her anyway. Civilian, working a job, useful to the family, murdered the moment she became a loose end.
Name is Brandon Wright.
Brandon, tortured to death by Avon's crew, beaten, mutilated, displayed on a car hood as a message about what happens when you rob the Barksdale stash. That happens under Avon's command, with his approval.
Take their time on Brandon.
We drop the body where we see it.
It is precisely the kind of theater of cruelty fans cite as proof Marlo is uniquely evil. Avon got there first. 2 full seasons before Chris and Snoop ever pick up a nail gun.
Wallace, he couldn't handle that.
Wallace, a 16-year-old soldier, frightened, trying to get out. Avon greenlights the cleanup of loose ends in a meeting with Levy.
Wallace ain't no snitch.
Stringer relays the order to Bodie face to face, and Bodie and Poot kill Wallace in a vacant.
Your boy Wallace. Shot that in the low-rises.
A teenage witness eliminated for nothing more than insurance. The audience never forgives Stringer for it.
Look at me! Where the fuck is Wallace?
Somehow we forgive Avon, who sat at the top of the chain and signed off. Add it up. Civilians murdered, children murdered, witnesses murdered, torture used as a tool of branding. The code that supposedly separates Avon from Marlo cracks the moment you actually count. The code only seems to apply to people whose deaths would inconvenience Avon. Everyone else is allowed to fall. Then there's the family argument, the most common defense of Avon. He loved his family. Marlo had nobody. Avon had a sister, a nephew, and a sense of legacy.
Family gonna always be there because it's blood.
The show even gives him the line, family is what it's about. Watch what he actually does with that family.
He took the 20. He ain't complaining.
D'Angelo Barksdale, his nephew, takes a 20-year prison sentence for the organization. Avon's response is to manipulate him through Brianna, through Avon's own sister, into staying loyal and staying silent.
And at the end, D'Angelo was this close to flipping, giving up everybody, everything.
When D'Angelo wants out, when he's drifting toward cooperation, ready to tell McNulty everything, Stringer hires a contract killer from DC behind Avon's back.
Whoever killed him wanted to pass it off as a suicide.
D'Angelo is strangled in the prison library, and the death is staged as a suicide.
But there you go, a life that had to be snatched, Avon.
Stringer eventually confesses the truth to Avon in season 3, and here is the part the family man defense never recovers from.
That I had something to do with it? I could do that to my own kin?
When Brianna, his own sister, comes asking if her son was murdered, Avon looks her in the face and lies to protect Stringer and the organization. Call that what it actually is. A man protecting his enterprise from his own family.
Pop said...
He's lying. He paid to lie.
Brianna eventually figures it out. By the end of the series, she has cut Avon off entirely. The character who knew him longest, who shared his blood, who built the empire alongside him, looked at the wreckage and said, "This man let my son die." When the closest person in your life severs contact because you allowed her child to be killed, the family man defense stops working as a shield. It starts working as evidence. The line about family was always part of the pitch.
Family is the Hardy say. I'm family, ain't I?
It's what Avon used to recruit D'Angelo. It's what he used to keep his crew in line. It's what he used to convince himself he was a different kind of gangster. The hotshots in prison and the silence around D'Angelo's body show what family was actually worth when it competed with profit. Here's the part of the conversation the Wire fandom rarely sits with. Why do we do this? Why does Avon get a pass that Marlo doesn't? 3 reasons. 1. Wood Harris. The actor playing Avon is magnetic. He laughs, he hugs his sister, he coaches the West Side team in the annual East vs. West basketball game, and trash talks Prop Joe in front of the whole neighborhood. He gives Cuddy $15,000 for a gym. He shows up at the family gatherings.
I bleed red. You bleed green.
That charisma is a performance. The character is a man whose charm is part of his weapon system. We respond to it the way the people in his orbit do, and we forget that they end up dead too. 2. Jamie Hector plays Marlo as a wall. Stillness, silence, almost no register on his face. We read that emptiness as evil because we want our villains legible. Marlo refuses to perform humanity for us, so we deny him any. 3. And this is the one David Simon designed on purpose. Avon is what the audience expects a Baltimore drug kingpin to look like in 2002. Marlo is what Baltimore actually became. The show is handing off a generation to a colder generation, and it wants us to feel nostalgia for the old monster while the new monster moves in. That nostalgia is the trap. We confuse our familiarity with Avon for moral standing. They are very different things. So what does the body of evidence actually say? Avon ordered the deaths of civilians. Avon ordered the death of a child witness. Avon used torture as a public message. Avon poisoned 5 strangers in a state prison to shave time off his sentence. Avon learned his second in command had murdered his own nephew, kept the secret, and lied to his grieving sister to protect the organization. Avon's sister cut him off because she finally saw him clearly. Avon lost everyone he claimed to love and ended the series alone in a cell. The argument the fandom makes is that Marlo would have done all of this and worse. The killings of Junebug's family, the security guard over a lollipop, The extra brutality, the extra coldness, the extra creativity in dispensing pain. All true. Marlo, on the data, is the more prolific civilian killer. That's a difference of degree, and it ignores the variable nobody wants to look at: time. Avon was the establishment. Avon had been winning for years. Avon could afford patience because he already had the corners. Marlo was hungry, young, climbing. Strip away Avon's 20-year head start, take away Stringer Bell whispering, maybe we don't kill him once a week, and what you have left is Marlo. That's the real thesis of The Wire. The system produces the same monster on a loop. The face changes, the smile changes, the math is the same. Avon Barksdale is one of the great villains in American television. The show let him be loved because the trick only works if he's loved. The receipt was always there. We just preferred to look at the smile. So here's the question I want in the comments. Drop the moment. The single moment where the camera caught Avon and you stopped buying the cousin at the cookout act. For me, it's the scene in season 3 when Stringer finally tells him the truth, that Stringer ordered D'Angelo killed. Avon swings on him, gets put down, and then just sits on the floor. Watch his eyes in that silence. Watch what's missing. Tell me what you saw. Subscribe if you want the rest of the rewatch.